The name Persians appears for the first time in Assyrian sources written in the 9th century BCE. According to these records, the communities referred to as Persians are thought to have settled around Lake Urmia as early as the 1500s BCE. In those early centuries, the Persians lived as weak and loosely organized tribes. Under pressure from Assyrian attacks in the west and Scythian raids in the east, they migrated toward the Zagros region, eventually settling around Susa, the capital of the Kingdom of Elam. Because of limited sources, it is unfortunately impossible to reach firm conclusions about the earliest phases of Persian history. By around 650 BCE, the Persians were living under Elamite dominance, mainly in and around the city of Susa. In 639 BCE, after the Assyrian Empire first invaded Babylon and then Elam, the Persians came under Assyrian control as well. However, the Persians were not pleased with this situation. As the Assyrians rose into a major power in Mesopotamia, the Persians began cooperating with the Babylonians and the Medes, joining a broader struggle against Assyrian rule. Although the Medes benefited the most from this conflict, expanding their territory dramatically over roughly 20 years, the Persians also gained an opportunity to rise. In 616 BCE, the Medes defeated the Assyrians in a battle fought near Susa, and the region where the Persians lived came under Median rule. In recognition of the Persians' contribution to the war effort, the Medes allowed them to establish a semi-independent kingdom centered on Anshan. Meanwhile, the Babylonians reclaimed territories that had once been under their control but had been seized by the Assyrians. In 612 BCE, they played a decisive role in ending the Assyrian Empire. When the year 557 BCE arrived, a leader from the Achaemenid line, far more ambitious than his predecessors, came to power in Anshan, Cyrus II. One night, after a feast in his military camp, Cyrus returned to his troops and proclaimed, "Great and mighty Persian army, why do you fight for the Medes and not for yourselves?" The speech energized his soldiers. With an elite force, Cyrus marched toward Susa, the homeland of his ancestors. The Median emperor Astyages, who was also Cyrus's maternal grandfather, responded by sending his general Harpagus against him. But Harpagus had observed Cyrus since childhood and recognized his leadership. He decided to support Cyrus in overthrowing Astyages. After making contact with Cyrus, Harpagus rallied forces and launched a rebellion. Following 3 years of internal conflict, Harpagus captured Astyages and delivered him to Cyrus II. Cyrus proved to be a strategic and intelligent ruler. Rather than executing his grandfather, he spared him, earning respect from both the Median elite and the imperial dynasty. This decision helped Cyrus secure authority over vast Median territories stretching from the Iranian plateau toward Anatolia. In 550 BCE, Cyrus founded what is often considered the first true Persian state, the Achaemenid Empire. At that time, the Lydians, led by King Croesus, were experiencing their own golden age and were uneasy about becoming neighbors with a rising Persian power. Lydia was wealthy, famous for gold mining and trade, and feared that the Persians would soon seek to seize its riches. As a result, Croesus formed an alliance with the Babylonians, Egypt, and various Greek city-states, and war began against the Achaemenids. In 547 BCE, the Lydians attacked Cappadocia and met Persian forces at the Battle of Pteria. Because neither side achieved a decisive result, and because Croesus did not receive the reinforcements he expected from allies, he withdrew. Learning that the Lydians were retreating, Cyrus pursued them with his army. According to the narrative, a Persian force of around 70,000 advanced toward western Anatolia, where a far larger opposing army, said to include Babylonian, Egyptian, and Lydian troops stood in their path. In December 547 BCE, at the Battle of Thymbra, the Persians defeated a force described as several times larger. The Lydians fell back to their capital Sardis, which was soon besieged. After 14 days of siege and fighting, the city fell. Croesus was captured, and Sardis was annexed into the Persian Empire. With Lydia defeated, Persian rule expanded across much of Anatolia. Cyrus gained the title the Great and became known as Cyrus the Great. This victory alarmed Babylon, Egypt, and the Greek city-states. Soon afterward, Babylon, an ally in the anti-Persian coalition, submitted to Cyrus and became part of the Achaemenid realm. Now, Persia's neighbors felt increasingly threatened. As Cyrus sought further expansion, he looked east toward Khorasan, Khwarezm, and Transoxiana. He rapidly brought Khorasan and Khwarezm under his control, but in Transoxiana he met fierce resistance from the Saka. At that time, the Saka were led by Queen Tomyris, who had become ruler after her husband's death. Cyrus decided to propose marriage to Tomyris, an offer that was widely understood as a political move aimed at controlling the region. Tomyris rejected the proposal. Cyrus, humiliated by the refusal, launched a campaign to break the Saka and annex their lands. In 530 BCE, the two armies met near the Sir Daria River. According to the Greek historian Herodotus, this conflict was among the bloodiest wars fought by the Persians outside Greek lands. The Saka, famed for their archery, inflicted a devastating defeat. More than half of the Persian army is said to have perished, while others fled. Cyrus was surrounded with only a small number of soldiers remaining. Attempting to break out, he fell from his horse and, according to the legend, was killed by Tomyris, who had him beheaded. Thus, Cyrus the Great, founder of the Achaemenid Empire, died in 530 BCE, after a reign of roughly 29 years. After his death, his son Cambyses II, who had served as governor of Babylon, took the throne. Rather than continuing Cyrus's eastern campaigns, Cambyses focused on ancient Egypt. In 525 BCE, Cambyses marched toward Egypt and reached the port city of Pelusium, where a large Egyptian army confronted him. Despite being heavily outnumbered, Cambyses won the Battle of Pelusium and annexed Egypt to the Achaemenid Empire. Afterward, Cambyses attempted further expeditions deeper into Africa and toward Carthage, but these campaigns ended in failure. Many Persian soldiers died from the harsh desert conditions, and others perished in fighting. The Carthage campaign was also stopped, largely due to Carthaginian naval strength. These defeats contributed to Cambyses's psychological decline. Not long afterward, in 522 BCE, he died near Syria. Following Cambyses's death, the empire fell into turmoil for about 8 months, until Darius I took the throne. Darius I led the empire into a new golden age. Soon after ascending, he campaigned toward India, easily taking regions corresponding to modern Pakistan and western India. He then turned north against the Scythians. The Scythians initially inflicted heavy losses, but by 520 BCE, the Persian army won repeated victories, pushing them north and extending Persian control as far as the Aral Sea. While Darius was campaigning in the east, the Ionians, supported by Greek city-states, launched a rebellion in Persian territories, citing economic grievances. The Ionian Revolt began in 497 BCE and lasted about 3 years, ending when Darius personally entered Ionia with his army. When Darius discovered that Greek city-states were behind the rebellion, he sent his son-in-law Mardonius with a fleet against them. But the Achaemenid fleet was struck by a storm, and large numbers of soldiers were lost at sea. Enraged, Darius demanded that all Greek city-states submit peacefully to Persian authority. Most complied out of fear, except Athens and Sparta, who executed Persian envoys, making war inevitable. Darius advanced into Thrace and reached the edge of mainland Greece. Thus began the long Greco-Persian Wars, described as brutal conflicts with severe casualties on both sides. The narrative continues with major battles and campaigns, including Persian advances and Greek resistance. Eventually, Darius died in 486 BCE before completing his ambitions in Greece. After Darius's death, Xerxes became emperor. He first dealt with revolts in Egypt and Babylon, then launched a massive invasion of Greece by land and sea. Greek forces fell back as Persia advanced, and Xerxes reportedly offered mercy in exchange for submission, an offer the Greeks rejected. Xerxes then marched forward with an enormous army, confronting Greek defenders at Thermopylae, a battle later popularized in modern culture. After Thermopylae, the Greeks withdrew, and Persia occupied much of mainland Greece. Naval warfare continued, culminating in the Battle of Salamis, where Persian losses were severe. Xerxes returned to Persia, leaving his general Mardonius in Greece. Mardonius later attempted to negotiate with Athens, offering autonomy under Persian overlordship and reconstruction of the city. Athens refused and requested Spartan support. Mardonius destroyed Athens and withdrew to take position for battle. A combined Greek army confronted the Persians. The conflict ended in a disastrous Persian defeat, with Mardonius killed and Persian forces nearly annihilated. Surviving Persians attempted to retreat through Macedonia, where they were attacked again and destroyed. With this, Persia's dream of conquering Greece effectively ended. Ionians then sought Athenian help, and Persian control over several coastal regions weakened further. After Xerxes was assassinated in 465 BCE, Artaxerxes III came to power, facing revolts, especially in Egypt, and continued pressure from Greek forces. Eventually, a settlement was reached. Persia would avoid the Aegean and refrain from attacking Ionia, while Greek city-states would stop supporting revolts in Egypt. Although the empire survived, its imperial strength gradually declined. Later rulers faced repeated internal conflicts and uprisings. At times, Persia regained influence along the Aegean and in Ionia, but instability persisted. By 336 BCE, Darius III became the last Achaemenid ruler. Meanwhile, Macedon, under Philip II, had unified much of Greece. After Philip's assassination, his son Alexander III, known as Alexander the Great, continued the plan to destroy the Persian Empire. The Macedonian and Persian armies first clashed near Troy in 334 BCE at the Battle of the Granicus, where the Macedonians won. Over the next 4 years, Persian forces retreated eastward as Alexander advanced relentlessly. Alexander conquered Anatolia, Syria, Egypt, and the heartlands of the empire, ultimately ending Achaemenid rule. In 330 BCE, the Achaemenid Empire collapsed, and the first great Persian state disappeared into history.